2 minutes past. Let's jump into the discussion because we have some really important things to go through this morning that I think is going to be really interesting to a lot of us. So with that in mind, welcome to Risk, Resilience and Revenue, an industry-led panel focused on how hoteliers can find the best way forward in today's evolving market. It's wonderful to be joined by our industry experts this morning who will be sharing their insights and experience to help guide our conversation. My name is David Cummings. I'm the Market Development Manager for SiteMinder in the UK. I've been here for just over 6 years now, part of the furniture, some might say. But that's enough about me. I would love to take this opportunity to introduce all of our listeners to two very special guests. So Sharon, thanks for joining us today, first of all. Please just take a moment, tell us about yourself and HOP.
Yeah, no, first of all, great to be involved and thank you for the invite onto what I think is going to be a great hour. So I'm Sharon, I'm the Chief Operating Officer at HOP. Been at HOP now 6 years, so pretty much like yourself, David, part of the furniture at HOP. So HOP is a property management system. We purely deal with independent hotels. So also sort of self-accommodation. I think we've seen the rise more and more now of people putting sort of glamping pods and shepherd huts in if they've got any land to generate more revenue. But yeah, independent hotels across the UK predominantly, a few overseas, but yeah, our core market is the UK. Set up in 2018. Two of our co-founder directors are actually hoteliers. So the whole team between us have got sort of over 50 years experience in hospitality, and we push that experience into our PMS for our clients. So in a nutshell, that's me and that's HOP.
Lovely. Yeah, as I say, thanks for joining. I've been aware of HOP for quite some time. I know we've done a webinar before in the past, and great to have a local UK-based PMS with us today. Dominic, please tell us about yourself and your company, MavRev.
Yeah, so I'm Dominic. I'm the founder and chief revenue officer at MavRev, and essentially we provide outsourced revenue management, hotel revenue consultancy, and revenue management audits to independent hotels in the UK. Been around in one guise or another for about 10 years, but essentially been operating as MavRev since post-pandemic, really. Yeah, that's us.
Nice. Okay. Well, with the introductions out of the way, let's sort of push on to the agenda. So our world, and just got ahead of myself there. So our world, and by extension, the hospitality landscape, it's experiencing a time of significant transformation as the industry adapts to economic changes. Shifting travel patterns, evolving guest expectations. Many hotels are being pushed to reimagine their strategies, let's say. So today's session, it aims to provide a bit of clarity and support forward-thinking approaches as we navigate both the challenges and opportunities ahead. So the discussion is going to be broken down into 3 key areas. You'll see that on the screen here. So risk, where we're going to examine evolving travel demand and rate dynamics. Resilience, where we'll analyze shifting guest behaviors and strategic adaptations. And then revenue, where we'll present actionable tactics that leading hotels are implementing to optimize performance in this, what is a bit of a changing market right now. So part 1 is all about risk. That is mapping shifts in hotel demand. Before I jump in, you will see a multiple choice question that I'd love for all of our listeners to answer. I can see some of us are already active in the chat, which is good. I think I saw we've got someone from Romania, which is wasn't expecting that, but here we go. So the question is, as we navigate the 2025 market, what represents the biggest risk factor for your hotel's performance this year? A, geopolitical events impacting travel patterns. B, rising labour and operational costs. C, inflation reducing consumer spending power. Or D, increased competition. So I want to let me repeat that. Just give us a bit more time to get some answers in. So as we navigate the 2025 market, what represents the biggest risk factor for your hotel's performance this year? Geopolitical events impacting travel patterns. Answer A. Answer B, rising labour and operational costs. C, inflation, reducing consumer spending, or D, increased competition? So we've got some answers there, and we're gonna discuss that a little bit later. So we'll come back to that. But guys, thank you for the voting. We've got a few of these polls coming, by the way. So fastest fingers first. All right. If we look at things at a global level, at 1.4 billion arrivals from international guests, global performance, it was roughly on par with 2019 levels last year, more than tripling compared to 2021. We can see as years have progressed since 2020, there's been a steady growth year on year. And heading into 2025, a projected 5% lift that paints a very positive outlook for global travel. Now, on the next slide, we're looking more specifically at the UK. It does paint a similar picture. We look at what's happened in the previous years. Obviously, that post-COVID recovery, it was a trend of growth also observed in the UK. Between 21 and 22, international arrivals grew fivefold. I'm sure we all remember that massive boom post-lockdowns. And it grew another 10 million between 22 and 24. So at a macro level globally and within the UK more specifically, things have looked very healthy up to this point. However, in recent months, hotels have begun to face, let's call it growing market uncertainty, where we have seen global travel, it's down 1.31% across the board between June and August this year. When we look at some markets in particular, they have taken some really big hits. This includes the likes of Canada, Germany, Italy, the US, all being really heavily impacted. You can see the figures on the screen there. The good news is that the UK hotels, they're only seeing a slight downturn for the summer ahead, relatively speaking. However, it is a downturn nonetheless, so it's something to be conscious of, in my opinion. Now, for the upcoming summer, UK booking numbers, they are down by about 0.5 percentage point in total, with June most impacted, as we can see in the data on the screen. Pleasingly, July and August, which saw the arrival of roughly 20% of the country's guests last year, they are displaying some positive momentum year on year. So we do have that. The next bit of data we have here, it's showing us 2024 summer booking levels compared to 2025 in the same time period. And we've also broken it down regionally. Obviously, this is a very UK focused discussion. So we wanted to understand the nuance behind the total data. Many regions have indeed, they are seeing positive growth through the summer. That has to be said. Northwest England performing particularly well. Strong forward booking activity in the likes of Manchester, Liverpool. And just so everyone knows, this is SiteMinder customers, of which we have many. So it's good to see our customers in those pockets of the UK doing well. On the flip side, London and Yorkshire, that's slightly behind last year's reservations volumes, driving the overall average down. And obviously London being quite property dense, that does have quite a big impact. For any of our listeners based in these regions, do these figures, do they align with what you're seeing in your local area? Please feel free to leave a comment in the chat. Really want to hear what you guys are experiencing, because the data tells us a lot, but we do want to hear about the detail from yourselves. Now, if we have a look at the, despite these regional bright spots, April's booking data suggests summer momentum. It may be softening. When comparing summer bookings made in April 2025 versus April 2024, we do see a decline of just over 3% for the upcoming period, and the performance on average across June, July, and August, which is a bit worrying again for the UK market. Now, we know very well, so that was overall booking momentum. We know very well that the average daily rate, or ADR, is also a very important metric in which a hotel measures its success. But unfortunately here, we're also seeing a bit of a downturn in average room rates across summer months, with the light blue pillar showing 2024 performance, the darker shade of blue showing this year's performance, and obviously it's month by month, just so that data is clear. So throughout the summer months, average room rates are down over 4% overall. Alarmingly, bookings made in April, ADRs actually dropped 9% to £243. We can also see on the right-hand side of the screen, the most impacted regions. They're in the east of England, southeast, and London. So those spots hit particularly hard with respects to ADR. That concludes the data we had to show with respect to the first webinar. The risk. So that's the risk. That's what's going on right now. That's what we're seeing. To conclude, we're generally seeing downturns in overall bookings as well as average room rates compared to last year. Some worrying signs, I would say. So turning to our panelists, I'd really like to ask the question here. At a macro level, how would you describe the shift in demand for UK hotels, and where do you predict the market may head throughout the remainder of 2025? Sharon, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, looking at sort of research that I carried out for the whole of the UK and looking at our clients as well, I think there's definitely been a notable shift towards more experience-driven stays with boutique hotels, the unique accommodation. I think I mentioned earlier, like the yurts and the shepherd huts, etc. And properties offering that real distinctive local experience are seeing stronger demand than the hotel chains. Countryside retreats, coastal destinations, and also some of the historic market towns have seen, a higher level of demand from the domestic travellers that we have here as well. I think the market should see consolidation around properties that can clearly differentiate themselves in either value or those experience segments. So. And also as well, those that are sort of looking more at technology adaptation will accelerate. Everybody's talking about contactless services and flexible booking policies becoming the standard rather than the premium offering. So properties that can adapt to these changing consumer expectations and booking behaviours, I think will face continued market share erosion throughout the remainder of 2025 if they can't adapt to what the market is demanding.
Yeah, certainly. I think adaptation is key. Dominic, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I'll split my answer into two sections, if that's all right. I think in terms of current demand for UK properties, a cautious optimism is probably what I would say. Robust but nuanced. Underlying cost pressures, which I thought was quite interesting in terms of some of the poll answers that were coming through. I think while overall performance is positive, probably overall, certainly in certain segments and locations, it's quite a complex economic landscape for hotels at the moment. From what I understand, generally we've got positive overall growth in that in Q1, the data that I've seen suggests that generally demand is outpacing supply growth slightly. I think 1.6% year on year versus 1.3% rise in supply, which obviously indicates that hotels are filling rooms. Strong inbound tourism, so I think a weaker pound is probably making the UK an attractive destination for international visitors. I think some data that I'd seen from Visit Britain forecasts a record 43 million international visits in 2025, which would represent a 5% increase on last year. And I think spending's forecast at about 34 billion, which would be up about 7%. Obviously, the US will remain a valuable market, and I think there's also strong recovery anticipated from East Asian markets like China as well. I think in terms of segments, I think there's a real resilience about the luxury and the upscale segments. I think they're in demand and perhaps less susceptible to rate increases. London's upscale hotels, for example, have outperformed in both occupancy and ADR. And I think there's maybe a trading up trend slightly amongst some consumers as well. I think obviously the return of group and corporate travel, there's domestic demand nuances. So I think spending on accommodation is still expected to increase, I think about 5 or 6% by the end of 2025. But I think there's maybe a customer nervousness and price sensitivity as well. I think the cost of living crisis has led some consumers to cut back on non-essential purchases, perhaps resulting in shorter domestic trips for some and a stronger focus on value for money, especially outside of the major cities. I think increased operational costs, obviously, the national living wage, national insurance contributions, and what's happened with that recently, potentially higher business rates, general inflation. I think all of that is probably squeezing profit margins, and therefore a key challenge will be balancing rate increases with consumer price sensitivity. And I think also probably last minute bookings. I think there's maybe an intensification around last minute bookings, which to me would generally indicate a greater desire for flexibility and perhaps spontaneity amongst travelers as well. I think in terms of market predictions for the remainder of 2025, cautiously optimistic, continued growth in demand, but with operators probably needing to be quite agile in terms of managing costs and meeting guest expectations. I think continued inbound tourism strength, with the weaker pound and Visitor Britain's forecasts, segment divergence, luxury and upper upscale segments. Obviously, I expect them to continue to perform quite strongly. Persistent cost headwinds around rising operational costs. I think to touch on Sharon's point, a focus on value and experiences. So while demand is there, I think consumers are highly sensitive to perceived value. So hotels that can offer experiential, memorable stays, whether through personalized services, strong F&B offerings, or unique activities, will be better positioned to justify their rates. I think technology adoption and the acceleration of technology adoption, the need to manage costs, enhance efficiency, be it AI for dynamic pricing and forecasting, contactless services, robust CRM systems, smart room technology are all factors. I see sustainability as a bit of a differentiator. So with growing consumer awareness, hotels that embrace and communicate their sustainability initiatives will attract a specific growing segment of travelers that are probably willing to pay a premium for those eco-friendly options. And I think probably on the downside, to sort of finish that answer, if you like, perhaps slower than anticipated economic growth could be a risk, persistent inflation, geopolitical tensions, potential impacts from UK tourism policies. If they make the UK less price competitive globally, they're all going to have an impact as well.
Yeah, no, loads of points that I think you're spot on with there. And of course, we have the poll results here for our first question earlier. So obviously the question was, what represents the biggest risk factor to your hotel this year? So the results are geopolitical events, 21% of the votes, inflation reducing consumer spending, 21%, increased competition, 26%, rising labour and operational costs, at least in our viewers' minds, the biggest concern, 33%. To be fair, a pretty relatively even split overall. So it seems people who have quite a few concerns, generally speaking. I mean, I attended from my side, I attended an event hosted by Expedia very recently. And they're very big in like North America. That's their dominant market. One thing they picked up on is a surge in outbound Canadian travel. That is Canadians travel to the UK. So I think some of this is down to the current tensions in North America. It's not that surprising that Canadians that previously may have just crossed the border to the US for their vacation, are now opting to go further afield. So I wonder how many hotels listening to this right now are not just aware of it, but capitalizing on it, because it's all about adapting. But no, nice guys, some really great points there. Let's move swiftly on to the second part of the discussion. So it's all about adapting to change and guest behaviors. So to kick this off, we have another poll question. So guys, get ready. Poll question. We want to hear what you have to say. So, which shift in traveller behaviour currently requires the most urgent adaptation from your property? Is it A, guests choosing to stay domestically? B, shorter booking lead times and stay lengths? C, declining overseas arrivals and evolving source markets? Or D, growing demand for experiential packages? So that's to say packages based around experience. So one more time. Which shift in traveller behaviour currently requires the most urgent adaptation from your property? I think we had a few clues there in the previous slides. The options here are A, guests choosing to stay domestically, B, shorter booking lead times and stay lengths, C, declining overseas arrivals and evolving source markets, sort of on my point about Canada there, or D, growing demand for experiential packages. Get your votes in. We will come back to the answers later. Okay. So the UK hotel market, it's always relied quite heavily upon local travellers. However, at the start of 2025, this trend has slightly accelerated. In the first 4 months of this year, domestic travellers made up an incrementally bigger percentage of arrivals each month. Apart from March, every other month in the first third of the year saw a year-on-year increase in domestic bookings. We can see, generally speaking, domestic travel remains dominant in the UK, where it contributes to around 70 to 75% of all bookings during these specific months. February having the highest concentration of domestic bookings. Now, this next chart, it's looking at inbound travel to the UK from certain international markets compared to last year. Interestingly, at a country level, German summer arrivals, they've jumped by almost 10%, which is great, obviously. Big market there. So I think some of our listeners would be quite wise to capitalize on that. This, however, it contrasts a dip in US arrivals being experienced globally. And for the UK, we're actually seeing a drop of almost 9% from our friends across the pond. So a bit bittersweet, so some of the results here. Positively, amid market uncertainty, we've seen that the booking window for summer bookings made in April remained on par with 2024's booking window. So this means that despite a slowdown in volumes, travellers are still planning their trips with the same advanced time frame. Remember, this is things as a whole. There might be regional differences. But what this does indicate, it's sustained confidence in their travel decisions. And to me, it suggests that while they may be more selective about their destinations, they aren't at an entire national level. They're not exhibiting last-minute booking behaviour typically associated with travel hesitancy. And for me, that's an important takeaway. So I think everyone should consider that. Now, when we look at stay length data for summer 2025 bookings, we're seeing remarkable consistency compared to 2024. Average stay is holding steady at sort of 1.75, in and around that. So again, this stability, it tells us that while travellers may be adjusting where they go or even what they'll spend, they aren't cutting their trips short. So even amid some uncertainty, guests they're preserving their planned vacation time rather than reducing duration to save money. A clear sign that the fundamental desire for travel and the experiences associated with travel, that remains resilient despite the market pressures we know of, around us right now. So we've got another question here to our panelists. We shall turn. So what are the most significant changes you are seeing in guest preferences? How can hotels effectively adapt in response? Dominic, kick us off.
Okay. I think in terms of those guest preferences that I'm seeing, demand for personalization and bespoke experiences. I think guests increasingly expect their stay to be tailored to their individual needs and desires, moving away from a one-size-fits-all approach. So I think that probably means anticipating preferences, offering customized recommendations, and providing services that feel as though they're uniquely designed for each individual customer, which probably also extends to receiving relevant offers and feeling that the hotel genuinely understands their unique travel motivations. I think experiential and immersive travel, the shift is from merely visiting a place to deeply experiencing it. So I think travelers are seeking authentic, immersive moments that connect them with the local culture, nature, people. And I think that probably means there's an interest in things like cultural workshops, local tours, unique activities, opportunities to learn about and engage with the destination in a meaningful way. And I think there's also a growing desire for slow travel as well, which also allows for a deeper exploration and more meaningful connections, basically. I think holistic wellness and well-being, wellness is no longer confined to just a spa visit. It's a comprehensive approach to emotional, mental, and physical health. I think there's a significant number of travelers that are seeking health-focused escapes now. And that probably translates into demand for things like healthy dining options, in-room fitness equipment, digital detox spaces, mindfulness workshops, and even more advanced wellness therapies too. I think also communal wellness spaces like saunas and a focus on analog wellness, i.e. disconnecting from screens. That's gaining traction too. I think in terms of sustainability and ethical travel, eco-consciousness is a powerful driver. Some data that I've seen, I think around 76% of people are seeking sustainable vacation options and are often willing to pay a premium for them too. I think guests expect transparent sustainability practices. So be that energy efficiency, local sourcing, waste reduction, water conservation, and green certifications are becoming increasingly important too. I think there's a desire for genuine commitment to environmental and social responsibility, moving towards generative tourism that benefits local communities. And I think the other obvious one for me is probably leisure and digital nomad lifestyle. So I think the traditional lines between business and leisure are blurring, and those travelers that are extending business trips for leisure are a growing segment. I think the rise of remote work has also fueled this digital nomad trend where individuals are seeking accommodation where they can blend work and leisure quite seamlessly, often for extended stays. And I think this probably creates a demand for flexible workspaces, reliable high-speed Wi-Fi, communal areas for networking, and amenities that cater to perhaps slightly longer durations.
Yeah, no, spot on. Spot on. Sharon, thoughts?
Yeah, very much along the same lines as Dominic. I think, yeah, some great points raised there. And, you know, looking at our clients and the research that we've done on where their bookings are coming from, very much reiterate what you've said. I think definitely a major shift towards those experience stays. They want to see, they're seeing hotels as sort of destinations themselves and seeking those local experiences. Definitely sort of curated recommendations, depending on the demographic, Instagram worthy memories as well. I think everybody still loves to post on Instagram if you're within that demographic. And it's about sort of creating those memories as well and connecting those guests with local culture, food, activities, etc. We are seeing a huge increase in research being carried out using AI chat. So people, rather than just going on, you know, to the website, onto the browser saying, you know, recommend hotels in Edinburgh, they're now using whether it's ChatGPT, Gemini to put in recommend hotels in Edinburgh and seeing the results that are coming through there. So it's in a huge shift in the searching for hotels down that route.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Absolutely. And
which, you know, our recommendation is then that, you know, a bit of extra work for the hotel's marketing team, but they've now got to make sure that their website is not only search engine optimized for the general organic, you know, hotels in Edinburgh on Safari or Chrome, but they've also got to make sure that, you know, the words that are being put into chat are also being picked up in order to give them a chance to pick up that demographic that's searching that way. So, you know, that sort of links back to they've got to invest in technology to, I'd say, definitely enhance services rather than replace that human interaction. Mobile apps can certainly help that, whether it's like check-in, check-out or contactless kiosks, can facilitate service requests, find out about sort of local out and about to really push that unique experience. But staff still need to be available for that personalized assistance when desired. And sort of to summarize, it's about making sure that the balance is on efficiency and that personalization. Guests do want streamlined processes, but they also want that authentic connections and experiences that everything's been tailored to their specific needs and interests, and they're, you know, the priority is them.
I think the point you mentioned as well about social media, again, this is fresh on my mind because I was at that Expedia event very recently. One thing they're now offering with their platform is that if a potential consumer comes across I think it's like a reel, you call it on Instagram, the stories or whatever.
Yeah.
They now have this AI functionality that, in case it wasn't obvious, it will recognize not only the destination that reel is, but will then automatically create an itinerary for them, which is insane to me. But it speaks to the power of social media, and obviously depending on the the sort of millennials or Gen Z, there's more of a weight on social media and how that influences booking behavior. I mean, from my end, and this is just referencing SiteMinder's 2025 Changing Traveller Report. And to your point earlier, Dominic, actually, the number of guests planning to work while at the hotel, we've seen that's risen to 41%. It's up 5% from 2024, and it's up 10% from 2022. So I think a lot of people had in their mind that sort of like leisure experience, it might have been short-lived as things sort of got back to normal, maybe a year or two after, what happened in 2020. But it's actually growing. So with this in mind, any hotel that has the capacity to make its rooms or even its common areas a little more work friendly, in my opinion, they should be doing everything in their power to cater to this type of guest. And of course, we did have that second poll earlier, and that the results were, so which shifts in traveller behaviour requires the most urgent adaptation? That was the question to our audience. So with 10% of the votes, international travellers changing destinations. I wonder if that little insight about Canadian guests may change some people's minds on that. Joint 15%, so guests staying domestically, and then of course growing demand for experiential packages. So they both took 15%, but the majority. Shorter booking lead times and stay lengths. 59% of our listeners feel this requires the most urgent adaptation. So it's really interesting to see where their minds are at. Okay, let's move on. The third and final segment is looking at revenue, boosting performance with practical tactics. And we have, believe it or not, one more multiple choice question for our listeners. So the question is this: looking ahead, which revenue optimization strategy holds the most potential for your property in the next 6 months? Option A, dynamic pricing around events and peak periods. Option B, expanding distribution to new online channels. C, using competitor intelligence to inform rate decisions. Or D, creating targeted packages for high value segments. So one more time, looking ahead, which revenue optimization strategy holds the most potential for your property in the next 6 months? The possibilities are: A, dynamic pricing around events and peak periods. B, expanding distribution to new online channels. C, using competitor intelligence to inform rate decisions. Or D, creating targeted packages for high value segments. Get your votes in. We want to hear what you have to say. And I think you know the format by now. We're going to come back to this one afterwards. Right. So to kick this section off, we thought we would start off with an examination of events as a strategic lever of hotel growth. So our collective fascination with events is nothing new, but it is accelerating with the global events industry projected to nearly double in size by 2032. And before anyone asks, this isn't purely down to Oasis getting back together. I'm sure it's played a big role, but maybe a large chunk. I know I paid way too much for my ticket, but that's a discussion for another day. So SiteMinder's Changing Traveller Report 2025, I referenced this earlier. It featured insights, just so people are aware, from 12,000 travellers across 14 countries, and one universal truth came from this: 2 in 3 travellers are more likely to travel for an event in 2025 than the year prior. So there's an appetite for this. So if you haven't read this report, please, if you've got your phone on you, use your QR code, Android, iPhone. Even if you just Google SiteMinder Changing Traveller Report, go directly to the SiteMinder website. It's easy to find. Don't read it now. Continue to listen. Read it later. But honestly, some great stuff in there. And hotels globally, they're capitalizing on this, almost universally leveraging events to drive more revenue, as the data here suggests. So this is looking at things across the world in this moment. Some highlights from this data includes last year's US Open of tennis, it caused a 16% increase in hotel room rates compared to the rest of the New York summer. Kylie Minogue's run of shows in the UK created a 10% jump in rates, so she's obviously still massive. The Songkran Festival in Thailand this year, it's generated a 38% surge in the ADR following the island's appearance on the third season of The White Lotus. I've not seen that show. I've heard good things though, and people are traveling to Thailand because of that. It must be decent. And the Oktoberfest, highly profitable period for the Munich hotels, prices rising almost 60% compared to the rest of autumn. Now that's the world, but this should really get everyone thinking about events happening near their property this year, not just the ones that have already happened, but what's coming and how can you capitalize. So let's take a quick moment just to unpack the impact of the recent Manchester Marathon the impact it had on local hotels. What we saw, lead times increased by 132% compared to the Saturday that followed the event, and the average rates increased by 40%. Obviously, there would be many savvy hotels that were aware of that happening, but I'm sure there'll be some that probably didn't even consider it in their pricing strategy, which would be a massive shame. So again, I'd like to take panelists and ask a question, maybe beyond events, what revenue strategies are you maybe seeing deliver the best results for UK hotels right now, and how are successful properties maybe implementing these approaches? Sharon, what thoughts?
Yeah, definitely dynamic packaging is delivering strong results. Bundling accommodation with the experiences. So whether that is a spa treatment, local tours, dining, as well as ensuring the booking engine is set up for room upgrades. I think some people, a lot of people do forget about the upgrades that's presented to the guest upon checkout. Additional services such as a bottle of Prosecco in the room, early check-in, late check-out is definitely looking at increased revenue. And we spend a lot of time with our clients really focusing on this, because sometimes it's the little things that hoteliers sometimes forget about. People buy with their eyes, so making sure that the booking engine, when they are going through the checkout process, that if you're looking at a room upgrade, it's nice and clear about the additional benefits they're going to get. And then moving on to the additional services, again making sure that there is a nice image. If it's a bouquet of flowers, there's a nice image of a bouquet of flowers, not something that looks half dead, or bottle of Prosecco. So making sure that those images are, highly optimized and they're inviting to the eye. I think that's definitely looking at increased revenue. And I think one of the main key differentiators is treating every guest touch point as a revenue opportunity. So how they can seamlessly integrate I think additional services into the guest journey without feeling really, really pushy to the guest, are seeing the strongest financial performance.
No, yeah, every guest touch point as a potential revenue opportunity. I like that. That's
absolutely, and that stems from sort of the booking confirmation. So are you promoting additional services, or are you promoting that have you booked a table? So if there's a facility to book a table for dinner, making sure that you've got the link in that email so that they can just go and book a table for dinner. Pre-stay email, again making sure that they're personalized and tailored. So what other services can you promote with your pre-stay emails? And then for anybody that's using particular WhatsApp messaging or something like that, what are you pushing out there that could be completely bespoke? So we've got a couple of our clients using a WhatsApp service, and it gains information. They can put in, like looking forward to your stay. Is there any particular reason you're coming? And the guest could reply back, oh, I'm coming for a birthday. It's, is it your birthday or a member of your party? Again, all AI driven, but that's making, that guest, the communication with the guest really personalized, and then offers that upsell opportunity. Oh, would you like a bottle of Prosecco in your room to help you celebrate, etc., etc., and all done in a very non-pushy way.
Yeah, exactly. There's you have to be tactful with it, right? Dominic, what's your point of view on this?
Yes, I mean, first of all, some great points from Sharon, I must say. I think from my point of view, AI-powered dynamic pricing and real-time forecasting. So moving beyond static or seasonal pricing, involves using AI and machine learning algorithms to analyze vast data sets in real time. Booking patterns, competitor rates, historical data, local demand fluctuations, local events, as you've touched upon, weather, and probably even online sentiment. Rates are then adjusted dynamically. So whether that's multiple times a day across all channels, I think that's probably implemented by investing in advanced revenue management systems, integrating data streams between your PMS and your CRS, your channel manager, so that you have that seamless real-time data flow. Continuous competitive analysis, monitoring what your rival hotels are doing, their pricing, their promotions, their availability, not just for direct competitors, but probably the wider local market too. Understanding booking pace and lead times, so adjusting prices based on how far in advance bookings have been made, implementing length of stay restrictions, minimum night stays during peak events, to really maximize those high demand periods. I think probably total revenue management too, with obviously a focus on TrevPAR and GOTPAR. So shifting the focus away a little bit from just RevPAR to maximizing earnings from all revenue streams. So, whether it's F&B, whether it's meeting and event spaces, spa, parking, or other ancillary services. I think the ultimate goal is probably to focus on optimizing GOTPAR. I think optimized distribution channel management and a real focus on booking direct. So strategically balancing your exposure on the OTAs with efforts to drive more profitable direct bookings through the hotel's own website, through the phone, loyalty programs, with the aim being to reduce resilience on high commission third-party channels. Then I think probably hyper-personalization and to touch on Sharon's point, strategic upselling and cross-selling. So utilizing guest data and technology to offer highly personalized experiences and strategically upsell, be it room upgrades, premium views, spa treatments, dining reservations, local tours, special packages. All of that is very, very relevant. And then I think my last point would be leveraging niche markets. So whether that's leisure travelers, digital nomads, groups. And I think hotels can implement this by offering targeted packages, whether it's work from hotel packages, a group sales focus, so dedicated sales teams pursuing corporate, MICE and leisure group bookings to fill sort of shoulder or off-peak seasons. And last of all, probably adapting spaces, so offering flexible meeting spaces, co-working facilities and reliable high-speed internet to attract business guests and leisure guests as well. I think those are really great ways in which I see hotels doing that at the moment.
Yeah, just to sort of build on one of your points there about targeting specific sort of segments or niches of the market. We've seen guests that have customers, I should say, having success in getting high value guests by connecting to the right channel. So to give an example, we connect to a well-known distribution channel in the UK called Pets Pajamas. It's all about catering to guests that are looking for pet-friendly rooms. I actually have a direct quote here from one of our customers. They rely on this booking channel. I just wanted to read it because I love this. So, in their eyes, this is their opinion on Pets Pajamas. Travelers booking via large OTAs, they often look for a hotel rather than a destination. But with Pets Pajamas, we get guests that deliberately spend time at the hotel and use more of our services. For instance, they choose bigger rooms, they often dine at our restaurant, and they book other add-on packages. So to me, again, just building what you've said there, it's really important. It's an important reminder that higher value guests, they are out there. I guess it's about being discoverable, and of course having the tools to do so, right? Of course we've got the poll as well, don't we? So the last question that we had: which strategy holds the most potential for your property in the next 6 months? So 14% of the vote has gone to creating targeted packages. 20% of the vote using competitor intelligence to inform rates. 31% of the votes, dynamic pricing, and then 34% expanding distribution to new channels, I should say. So I think all relevant answers, to be fair, and I think we touched on most of them in our opinions there. So from SiteMinder's perspective, the current UK hotel data trends reveal 5 critical market opportunities demanding immediate action, and in our eyes, forward-thinking hoteliers, they must consider these action points. So I'll start from the top. Number 1, supercharge event demand via data-driven recommendations. So we just touched on that. Implement dynamic pricing strategies around high-impact events like the Manchester Marathon, which we saw drove 41% ADR increase across the city. Create targeted packages for major UK events, capitalizing on the trend of 2 in 3 travelers being more likely to travel for events in 2025. Number 2, spot emerging travel patterns early and capitalize. With German arrivals up 9.42% as US visitors decline 8.66%, there's a chance to pivot your marketing focus. Create tailored campaigns for German travelers while maybe maintaining strategic visibility for the US market. Number 3, ensure visibility to local travelers. With domestic travelers consistently increasing their share across all the months in 2025, we've seen that earlier. Invest in meta search visibility through platforms like Google Hotel Ads. They're really great at city geo-targeting. This sustained domestic growth, it makes local audience reach critical, while international arrivals are contracting to a degree. And we know meta search visibility, that has really strong domestic booking performance, at least for SiteMinder customers. Number 4, track regional competitor pricing to maximize revenue. So this is all about implementing monitoring software of your immediate local competitors, especially important in the UK right now with the room rates down 4.23%. Daily price comparisons with your top direct competitors and the broader market, it helps maintain optimal positioning without destructive price wars. You don't want to race to the bottom, no one wants that, but you do want to be informed and competitive. Number 5, craft destination-focused offers that leverage your region's unique strengths. I know we have listeners from all over the UK right now, so develop packages highlighting your local attractions and experiences. Create value-added offerings rather than pure discounts to address the overall ADR that we've seen decline, while capitalizing on the positive booking momentum seen in July and August, which were up 6.68% and 1.46% respectively. So, finally, Sarah, Dominic, I'd like to raise a question. Apart from what we've already discussed today, and it's been quite a lot to be fair, are there any other tactics properties can use to stay profitable through this, what is a bit of a volatile period? Sharon, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've probably got sort of 5 main things from me. I think from sort of the answers in the previous questions was to definitely focus on that experience, cater for the growing demand in unique and memorable experiences, personalized communication, stay in touch with guests not only before but after their stay for repeat bookings, some property updates, personalized offers, again to build that loyalty and encourage those repeat bookings, and also recommendations to their friends and family as well. Embrace technology. As much as we don't like it, it's here, and technology is on the increase with what people are using. But using the data analytics tools to look at the insights into marketing trends, your guest demographics, and competitor pricing. So using the tools that can be integrated in with the PMS to look at your competitor pricing as well. Self-check-in, improving efficiency and guest satisfaction. I then go back to the AI. Again, I've been focusing on it quite a lot recently with our clients, and go reiterate what I said before, ensuring that website content is aligned to both SEO and AI. And I think the AI will just become more and more and more. My recommendation would be, if anybody sees a webinar being run that focuses on AI and hospitality, get yourself onto it. It will just explain a little bit more about what's going on in the world, and hopefully give some, tips that hotels can embrace and embed into their marketing strategy. And sustainability. Implement eco-friendly practices to appeal to those environmental conscious travellers, and then also as well that will potentially reduce costs. So they're my main 5 key points.
Nice. Yeah, all completely valid in my opinion. Anything to add to that, Dominic?
I think from my perspective, I think these efforts probably focus on cost control, operational efficiency, staff management, and what I would describe as innovative non-room revenue generation. So I think in terms of rigorous expense analysis and budgeting, so whether that's implementing detailed budgets, regularly reviewing and analyzing them, negotiating smartly with suppliers, or even zero-based budgeting. I think from an energy management and a sustainability perspective, energy audits, investing in energy efficient technology, guest and staff engagement, renewable energy exploration. From a labour management perspective, smart staff scheduling, cross-training staff, automating routine tasks, strong retention strategies. From a waste reduction and inventory management point of view, obviously food waste reduction, inventory optimization, recycling and reusing, monetizing underutilized spaces and assets, be it co-working spaces or pop-up concepts, engagement with your local community, micro events, parking solutions, diversifying what you're doing in terms of your F&B. So menu engineering, grab and go options, delivery partnerships, perhaps. And I think to touch on one of Sharon's points, leveraging technology for guest experience and efficiency. So whether that's optimizing your property management system, guest messaging platforms, automated housekeeping and maintenance, or utilizing online reputation management tools, I think they're all other things that maybe certainly I haven't touched on in my previous answers that could be other things that people could be looking at and thinking about.
Yeah, spot on. Okay, let's see if we have any time for some audience questions. I think we've almost hit the hour, so let's see if we can get a couple in. I think there's actually one in the chat from Matthew. Thank you, Matthew. It's for you, Sharon. So to do with the WhatsApp service, is it run through Hop or is it a separate system? How does that work?
It's a separate system that is integrated with Hop, works through API, and we then push out guest details to our partner, and then there is a stream of communication that the hotel can choose on the package that they offer. So it could be just guest communication prior to arrival, and also while the guest has checked in, again offering those upsells and cross sells and everything else. Or it can be used as a communication tool for the guest to communicate back to the hotel. But our clients that are using it, I've seen a significant increase in additional services, and that's what's increasing their overall revenue stream. So pushing the would you like to book a table for dinner, in the additional services in the room, whether it's a bouquet of flowers or a bottle of champagne, and then the AI service can also kick in then with that communication with the guests. From what I've seen, it does not look like it's AI, because it is very, very fluid communication going back and forth. But again, it's what's the purpose of your stay? And as I mentioned earlier, oh, it's a birthday, or is it your birthday? Is it a member of somebody in your party offering a bottle of champagne in the room? Or it could be, oh, we'd love to give you a welcome a welcome drink to celebrate your birthday, please come to the bar. So there's all those different kind of add-ons that can be done through the communication.
Nice. Okay. Perfect. Well, I think the hour is almost up. I think we do have some more questions, and I'm sure others will have questions on the back of this. Feel free to reach out to us, and actually leads me to our concluding slide. First of all, I just want to give a massive thank you to both of you, taking the time out of your obviously very busy schedules, and I know you've both got a lot going on, to offer your own insights. Obviously I see things through my SiteMinder lens, but I probably miss a few things, and you guys have definitely given me some valuable information. And yeah, if anyone wants to, any of our listeners want to sort of reach out to you guys, Dominic, how can we reach you? How can we get you?
Yeah, my email address is obviously on the screen. That's a great way. Alternatively, you can visit mavrev.co.uk, and all the contact details are there if anybody wants to get in touch. But and yeah, just to your point, thank you very much for the invitation. It's been an honor joining the webinar, and yeah, I hope people have got some great insights out of it, which I'm sure they have.
Brilliant. And Sharon, with regards to Hop, how can people reach you? Maybe they're interested in this WhatsApp function.
Yeah, absolutely. Email on the screen now, or they can visit hopsoftware.com, take a look at our website. There's a little demo on there as well. Yeah, you know, thanks for the invite. I've personally taken away a few things from Dominic, especially around sort of the rev management side that I will go back and share with our clients. And yeah, I think it's been a great, interesting discussion, and thank you for allowing me to take part.
Indeed. Well, I think that's a wrap for today, guys. Thank you all for listening. I hope you have taken some not just value, but actionable insights from this discussion. And yeah, wish everyone a great day ahead. See you later.
Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.